Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Draw Control podcast. On today's episode, I am joined by former Loyola women's lacrosse player, Katie Detwiler. Katie is an IWLCA Inside Lacrosse and US Lacrosse All-American, as well as a two-time Patriot League Defensive Player of the Year. Katie's also won 4 Patriot League Conference championships as well. Thank you so much, Katie, for coming on the podcast, and how's everything going?
Of course, it's going great.
Well, you recently just graduated college, so what have you been up to since then? Anything interesting? Obviously, against the lacrosse stuff, but I was just curious if there's been anything else you've been up to.
Mostly just like relaxing and kind of going down the shore. I go to the beach up in New Jersey and yeah, just kind of relaxing. We went on a team foreign trip to Portugal and Spain, so that was like right after the season ended, which was a really cool experience. But yeah.
Now, obviously, you're currently a part of the AU Women's Lacrosse Pro League. What's that experience been like for you so far in the first few weeks you've been playing games with them?
Yeah, it's been awesome. I mean, they have a great community here. All the girls have been so great. Like, we have a great rookie class, and then everyone who's been here has been so welcoming and uplifting. So, yeah, it's just been really fun and getting to compete with all these different players that I've either looked up to or played with the last few years or against. It's been a great experience and really fun.
So let's transition now and talk about the beginning of your lacrosse career and sort of work all the way up to where you are today. So you're from Devon, Pennsylvania. Talk about growing up there and how'd you start playing lacrosse?
Yeah, so Devon is like right outside of the Philadelphia area. So lacrosse is pretty big there. A lot of competitive athletes and great athletes come out of that area. So I really started getting into it. I was like always into basketball, and then I started getting into lacrosse a lot in middle school and started playing club for Fantastics. And then I went to a different high school. I went to Carroll instead of Conestoga because my mom went there, and we had a great team. My club director was my high school coach as well. So I knew a lot of the girls going in, and they're from like all different areas around the Philadelphia suburbs. And yeah, I had a great experience, met a lot of people along the way, like was packed with tournaments and different play days and all that stuff. It was super busy up until the time where I was getting recruited and everything.
Now, did you watch any lacrosse growing up? And if so, who was your favorite player or team that you like to watch and admire as a child or as a teenager?
I did watch a lot of lacrosse like going into high school. Just it was really cool. A lot of people from my club or my high school went on and played in college. So it was really cool just to watch them play. Once I was committed to Loyola, I started watching them play a lot and watched them grow as a team. Being from Philly, I always watched Penn State play. The Final Four was in Philadelphia one time, so that was really cool. I got to attend that when the men's and women's were there. So yeah, no player in particular. I was like Maddie Lusher, I always looked up to just because she was a great defender at Loyola, and Margaret Filippelli is she's a fellow number 32 that went through Loyola, so I watched her a lot too.
Now, before college, like you mentioned, you played for your high school at Archbishop Carroll High School. Talk about your lacrosse experience in high school and what you took away from that experience.
Yeah, so my high school experience was awesome. We were a really great competitive team. We competed against all the best schools in Pennsylvania still. Like we had a great out of conference schedule playing all the public schools too. So I would say my favorite memory there was winning the state championship my junior year. We had a great team and filled with like a bunch of my like best friends and girls going to great collegiate programs. So getting the chance to like really push ourselves and make it to that state championship and then get the chance to win it was just awesome and something I'll never forget.
What's like the best memory you have from your high school lacrosse days?
Probably that state championship, definitely. It was just a great year all around, like playing. We were always having so much fun together and just improving every year. We were always a great team and always made it to like the third round or like almost to the championship. And then my junior year, we just everything was working out and falling into place, and winning that championship was just awesome.
And how did your like high school lacrosse experience help prepare you for college with Loyola?
I think just the way we pushed each other, and I was surrounded by really competitive people and just really athletic girls who wanted the best for each other. So I think being able to create chemistry there on and off the field and then just make each other better on the field was great to prepare me for college into another whole different competitive level. So I think just that atmosphere of great players and people prepared me for what I would experience at Loyola.
Now, you also played soccer, basketball, and tennis in high school as well. How did playing those other sports help you out in lacrosse?
So basketball definitely that was like my dream before lacrosse, but that definitely helped me a lot footwork wise. I'm a defender now, so I feel like that defensive footwork definitely carries over. And then just with soccer and tennis, I feel like they're both very competitive sports and also like kind of taxing on your body. So it just prepares you for both of those, the physical training you go through for both of those, the running, the conditioning, the strength and conditioning all prepare you in the same way for lacrosse.
Yeah, I feel like tennis would help out a lot with the hand-eye coordination because you're doing like I feel like that kind of helps wrist work in lacrosse. Maybe I'm crazy.
No, definitely. Yeah. You would think like they're so different in sports, but definitely they help each other.
Now, what was your recruiting process like with Loyola? What made you want to go there versus other schools you might have looked at that time?
So I was recruited before the whole rule of waiting till September 1st and everything. So I could really have committed whenever I wanted. But my process was cool. I kind of took it slow, looked at like a bunch of different schools. Loyola was actually like the last school I looked at, which is funny now looking back on. I was just like really patient in the process because I knew, well, I didn't really know what I wanted until I did know from Loyola. But I think it was a really cool process getting to visit all those different places. And then once I got to Loyola and got to see Baltimore and the city and just like what Loyola had to offer. I think not a lot of people know it's such a small school in Maryland, but the coaches and the team culture there is something so unique and something I am so grateful that I got to be a part of. And I think we got to grow as a program and get to a really high competitive level. So I really looked for a great team culture and like knowing I would make my best friends and be able to really enjoy like my experience on and off the field being a player while also competing at that high level. And I think Loyola has a great combination of all of that.
And what was sort of like the biggest adjustment you had to make to college lacrosse?
I think the speed, it's so fast. Everything happens so fast around you, and you kind of have to grow as a player just as fast to be able to get out there and like make your presence out there. So I think that was just the biggest adjustment, being able to adjust to the speed of the game and how quickly people are getting better and growing with the game.
Now, in your first year with Loyola, your team won the Patriot League Championship for the first time in your career. Talk about winning that trophy that season and what did it mean for yourself and for your team that year?
I think it was huge. I mean, the year prior before I got there, they hadn't won the Patriot League, so we were kind of like the underdogs in a way. And it was just like we gotta own our territory, get that title back. So we were really pushing ourselves all year. I was like a younger member on the team. We had a lot of older girls who were holding those starting spots, and I kind of went right into an older defensive unit, but they taught me so much. And just the grind of college lacrosse and really having to like make your statement wins throughout the season to get us in a good place to win the Patriot League tour championship. So yeah, it was just so fun and it was like my first one ever. So just the rush of like playing on that day and then like the excitement from everybody in the crowd and everything after winning was so awesome. And then celebrating with the team after too.
Now, in your first NCAA tournament experience, you beat Richmond before losing to Princeton in the second round. What did you learn from your first NCAA tournament experience that has helped you along in your collegiate career moving forward since that season?
I think just to savor the moment and understand how awesome it is to get to that place. It's only 30 something teams get a chance to make it to the tournament. So just the fact that we were there proves how accomplished we were that season. And then just kind of realizing off of that first year compared to other years, how many things have to go right and how many like how well you really do have to play to move on to that next game and how many pieces have to fall into place. So I think we learned a lot from that year, being able to progress the next year and the next year. to further rounds. But it was a great experience for me because I'd never been there before. So getting to play in that with those players was awesome.
Now, unfortunately, your sophomore year was cut short due to the pandemic. How'd you handle that challenge and adversity of not finishing that season, but also having challenges in regards to finding a way to train for whenever you had games coming up? Because obviously it was very uncertain when that was going to happen at that time.
Mhm. Yeah, so that was really tough. That was a great year. We were actually 5-0 before the season ended. So it was a shame just because we had a great thing going for us. We had great environment, great energy going throughout the season so far. So it was pretty brutal when it ended. It was kind of like, oh, we get to go home for a couple weeks, and then it was like, wow, this is like really happening. So it was tough, and just like not being able to be around 30 girls every day and train with them, it was kind of hard to have that motivation at first. But luckily for me, I had a great group of girls in the Philly area where we all worked out together. And by the time it was like a couple months later and it was like into summer, we were like, all right, like hopefully we're getting back there in the fall. So we'd go out there every day, like do runs on the field together, be able to work out together. It was probably a group of like 20 to 30 of us every day. So that kind of like held my that hole I had from like my season for the time being. So that was really fun to be around, and that's where I was kind of able to push myself to still be hopeful for what was to come.
Now, talk about what's like playing in the Patriot League and just the competition that you face each game.
So I think it's really cool. The Patriot League isn't one of the most competitive leagues in the NCAA, but it's really cool to get to play those different teams. And we have rivalries with Navy and now with Army. They're all growing. And I think it's really cool to have those games, but also our really strong out of conference games we get to have. And we always start with like Hopkins, that Battle of Charles Street in the beginning of the season. But yeah, I think it's really cool and we get to learn a lot in those games, even though sometimes we may be winning by a lot. We're still pushing ourselves to be our best competition, especially every day in practice, and just getting ready and tuning out the fine things so that when we get to those like really big games or Patriot League playoffs and stuff like that, we're ready for our best game.
Now, during your collegiate career, you kept improving and getting better. What would you say was the biggest improvement that you've made to your game throughout your time with Loyola?
I would say just being able to have that bounce back mentality. Being a defender, it's really hard mental sometimes just because you're going to get beat sometimes and it's not always the most rewarding position where you're getting like big highlight goals and stuff like that. But I think the atmosphere we created at Loyola where defense was really admired and it was just awesome to be a part of. So I think just building up my mental toughness and being able to be like, all right, it's okay. Like, let's get the next one, or let's get the scrum ball next time and stuff like that, or a draw in the draw circle. So stuff like that, just being able to bounce back and really grow, not just physically, but mentally as well.
And how do you sort of work on your defensive part of your game? Because obviously you received many accolades for your defensive play throughout your collegiate career. So I'm just curious how you sort of worked on that part of your game and how it sort of felt to be recognized for that on the conference level, but also on a national level as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was really cool. Props to all the players that I've ever played with and the attackers that I would go up every day in practice who made me better. But I would say just footwork is huge. I would always be going out and doing more footwork, and then just like as hard as they are, 1v1s really will get you better and get your confidence better. I say like 90% of 1v1s is like confidence and being like, this girl's not beating me. So I would say just so much props to my defense having my back to be able to let me be the player that I am. And then just the skilled attackers that I got to go up against every day that prepared me for whatever dodge or whatever player I was going up against in the games.
Who's the best attacker you've ever gone up against?
Oh, wow. In my whole career, I mean, Charlotte North, I played her in the Elite Eight and she was just insane. She's such a talented player. But now playing in the Pro League, probably Sam Apuzzo's like insane. She is so talented and she just keeps getting better. So yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy how they like come up with I don't know, creative goals, I guess the best way to describe it. So but yeah, I definitely you're one of the few players to go up against Charlotte North and Izzy Skane in back-to-back tournaments, which is seems like I feel like as a defender that's probably exciting, but also like unfortunate at the same time. I'm not sure what you think about that.
Yeah, Izzy Skane. I remember that one. Yeah, we played them in the Elite Eight this year, and she's just insane. She is like a remarkable player, and I give her so much props for everything she does. And I think my experience helped me prepare for her, but she just came, and her whole team just came out the better team that day. And yeah, she's an awesome player.
I feel like she doesn't really break a lot of ankles. She just bulldozes through defenders. I don't know if you sort of felt that way.
Yeah, I think she just never stops, and you can try and scout her, but she's just pulling everything she has in her like toolbox out to play. And yeah.
So let's talk about your final 2 years in college. So coming into your senior year, what type of leadership did you want to bring towards the team? Would you consider yourself more of a vocal leader or lead by example type of player?
I think a little bit of both. Defense is communications is like a huge part of defense. So I think I'm pretty loud out there on the field and kind of tried to carry that into my defensive unit throughout the D and the middies. And then just leading by example as well, what I was talking about before, just with that bounce back mentality, trying to like spread that throughout the whole entire defensive unit. Like we're gonna get beat sometimes, we're gonna get beat, but at least we're doing it together. So kind of stuff like that. Like nobody's out there by themselves, just taking 1v1s all the time. Like we're gonna support each other and wherever we are. And then I was just so lucky to have multiple different great leadership units with me along the way. So we all helped and I feel like complemented each other well to be able to lead a great group.
Now, the last 2 seasons with Loyola that you were part of were very, very similar. You won the Patriot League Championship, but then eventually lost to a team that made it to the national championship game in the NCAA quarterfinals. So just talk about your team's performance in in these past 2 seasons from your perspective, and how have you guys sort of maintained that consistency? Because I think that was sort of the most impressive thing that I found. You guys only lost 5 games in the last 2 years, and just sort of talk about what you took away from your team's performance both those years, because it was impressive, but I feel like it also might have been disappointing not to get further in the tournament from your perspective as well.
Yeah, I think our mentality as a team was always just like, why not us? Like, I think Loyola gets overlooked a lot of the time, but we really push ourselves every day to be the best that we can be. And I think once we made it to that Elite Eight against Boston College, we were like, all right, this is our new standard, pushing for that for the next year and more. So I think Loyola will eventually get back to that place of making it to Final Fours and making it to championships because that was always our goal. And I think we are still a team that falls into that category that can compete with all those teams. So I think just holding ourselves to that high standard, not just during games, but in practice every day, like knowing what we can do and knowing what's not good enough and knowing how to push each other and how to make each other better. I think our practices really led us to success and our coaches always made the most creative drills to be able to make us improve in every category. And I think just the way we held that standard for each other in each position as well throughout the field help us just keep continuing to get better.
Now, you sort of mentioned this earlier, but you played your final collegiate game against Northwestern. What emotions were you going through at that time after the game, knowing that your collegiate career was done? And I guess what will you take away from your time with Loyola when you look back on it now?
Yeah, I think obviously that game was really devastating to my whole career being over. I think I was so lucky to have that fifth year coming out of COVID and being able to be with Loyola and that team for one more year. So as much as I was ready to go, I think after losing that game, I was like, oh my God, I'm not ready to go. So I think that was just a lot in that moment. But I'm so grateful for all the memories and the games and the people that I've met along the way that I was just like feeling a lot of gratitude as well for everything I've learned. And then also some hope that my college or my playing career wasn't over to hopefully play in Athletes Unlimited as well. So I think it was kind of mixed emotions, seeing family after as well. But overall, so grateful and wouldn't change a thing out of my experience.
Now, what was your favorite moment from your Loyola lacrosse career?
Oh. Um, It's hard to choose just one, but I think all the Patriot League championships were so great and so fun. Just the atmosphere at Loyola is so fun to be a part of, and our families, our sports system, and the team is so great. So that was just always something so awesome to be a part of. And then I think something that I'll never forget too is the foreign trip we went on this year, where we got to go to Portugal and Spain, and we got to play some lacrosse over there, but also just to get that quality time together because my career was over, but I got to spend those last 10 days with my team still, so it was kind of like a final hurrah.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I would say, which one was like your favorite Patriot League championship? I assume it's probably your senior year since you knew that was like you. I feel like you got to soak that in a little bit more than the others.
Yeah, definitely. All of them were great though. I mean, all of them in their own way. I think it's always a battle out there, whether we're playing Army, Navy, Lehigh, usually is like the top four there, but it's awesome. And just like the energy in Ridley, our athletic complex during those days is so remarkable to be a part of. But yeah, I would say either my freshman year, just because I was like, wow, this is awesome. And then, yeah, my fifth year too was great.
So we're now in a segment I like to call six questions that have nothing to do with lacrosse. And the goal of the segment is to hopefully get to know you a little bit more off the field. So first one is if there was a movie made about your life, who would you want to play yourself?
Ooh. Probably Jennifer Aniston, just because I loved her and Friends is like my favorite show.
What music do you like to listen to?
Country, my favorite.
Any go-to artist?
Luke Combs, Morgan Wallen, Zach Bryan, recently a lot. Yeah, but anybody really.
Nice, nice. I'm into country too, but I would say I'm into like everything. So I won't say country is my favorite genre of music.
Mm, yeah.
Now, what is the most underrated holiday and what's the most overrated holiday?
Underrated holiday, I would say like the 4th of July. I just really like it because I'm always down the shore with my family and it's just a great time, like all my people in like one place and we're at the beach relaxing, seeing the fireworks and everything, just for me. Overrated? Um, I don't know. I kind of like all the holidays. Maybe like Memorial Day weekend. I feel like it's just everything from my town at least. Everyone always goes down the beach and it's always raining and it's just so crowded everywhere. So it's not my favorite.
Yeah, I feel like it's always bad weather Memorial Day, but except for this year, it was beautiful weather this year for Memorial Day weekend, and then Fourth of July weekend was awful weather. It's usually
Yeah,
the opposite. So
yeah.
this year was sort of the anomaly in that. But
Mhm.
I agree with you. I think Fourth of July is probably the most underrated holiday. I would say overrated for me is definitely New Year's Eve though, because I
Oh
feel like you're
yeah.
just waiting for a clock to turn midnight, and then after that's done, it's sort of just like what are we doing here? So that's one of the few holidays I would just like to stay in because it's just I don't find it that interesting in my opinion. So that's sort of my perspective on that.
No, yeah, I agree. My friends always say that all the time. Like we're like stressing out over what to do, but then we always find that like New Year's Day is actually like more fun than New Year's Eve. Like sometimes I'm an Eagles fan, so sometimes they're playing New Year's Day and just stuff like
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's good college football on New Year's Day
that.
too, or New Year's Eve. And then obviously, I'm a big hockey fan, so it's fun watching the Winter Classic on that day as well. So that's usually my go-to on New Year's every year. But yeah, I feel like I don't know. I feel like sometimes the NFL doesn't play on New Year's Day, so I can't say that the Patriots always play that year or not. So
Yeah.
uh who speaking of, let's ask some questions about your teammates. Who has the best style on the Loyola lacrosse team besides yourself?
Best style. I would say Sydney Black. She has just like great shoes and great style sense.
Who is the funniest on the team?
Funniest would have to be one of my best friends, Daryl. She's just always making everybody laugh.
What is your most embarrassing lacrosse moment?
Embarrassing. Hmm. Probably like one of the times I've like fallen. My some of my teammates would like make fun of me for being a little dramatic sometimes that I've fallen. So maybe one of those times where I maybe took it a little bit too far, but yeah, something like that.
Well, hopefully it was during the practice and not during games, so people didn't have to see that footage.
Yeah, during practices we've had some funny like little falls or just like people tripping over turf where it
Hmm.
happened. Yeah.
That's good because I feel like defenders, unfortunately, guys have probably more embarrassing moments than attackers or midfielders, just because I don't know. I just feel like sometimes accidents happen, but I would like to ask you, what's the most embarrassing lacrosse moment you've ever seen, like in a video or something? Like, was there any ankle break that you saw that sort of like, oh man, I feel so bad for that defender?
Not any in particular. I feel like it's more embarrassing when I see like I don't know. I just feel like being a defender, I like understand their pain and I more like feel bad for them than I'm like embarrassed. Um, but yeah, nothing I can remember off the top of my head.
Because I see all these mixtapes and like I don't know. I feel like obviously everyone thinks it's cool to like have one of those, and but I always feel like people don't see the other end of it when it's like someone
Mhm.
falling on their face and stuff. So I
Yeah.
always just wonder like how like defend other defenders feel about that.
Yeah, I think just giving so much credit to the attackers and being like, yeah, great play on your end.
Now, last non-lacrosse question is, what's the most interesting thing you've read or seen this week?
Hmm. I did see that July this month has been like the hottest month it's ever been ever, which was just crazy to hear because we're playing lacrosse right now and that's not the first thing you want to hear. So it was like record-setting hot this month. Yeah.
Yeah, that's totally good news for the environment, which is something I don't want to hear myself.
Yeah.
But um, I don't know. I'm doing my part. I feel like others aren't. So hopefully that I can. I don't know. I hope people can sort of wake up to it, in my opinion, because I think it's starting to become a real issue. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, definitely.
The most interesting thing that I saw this week, I don't even know. Probably like MLB trade deadline stuff. Honestly, I haven't really been paying attention to the news too much, or at least I can't think of anything in the top of my head right now.
Yeah, I'm not the best with like current events and stuff like that, but
Yeah, it's been the news has been pretty bad lately, so like I try to stay out of it. Like I already know the things aren't going well so far, so I don't need to constantly be reminded of it. So that's why I sort of try to stay out of it as much as I can, unless I have to. So,
Mhm.
getting back to some lacrosse questions now, what should be done to help grow women's lacrosse from your perspective?
I think just growing the game wherever you can. I think especially being part of Athletes Unlimited now, just being able to bring back to the community all that we can and share our experiences wherever we can. I think everybody here has really cherished all the memories and people and experiences they've made along the way. So just kind of like you're doing here, like having players share their stories for like girls to look up to. And I think just everything we've done with Athletes Unlimited, they've done a great job of having girls come to the games, autograph sessions after, like a bunch of player fan like interaction. I think that's huge just for players to have something to look up to. And I think it's really cool because like when I was younger, there was no professional women's lacrosse to be able to strive for. So the game is going in a great direction. So I think just being able to keep progressing and pushing to the limits with women's lacrosse.
Any advice you would give those younger players on what it takes to be a college lacrosse player like yourself?
I think just reaching for the stars, I think you can just always get better every single day and don't limit yourself in whatever you can do. If you want to play at this top school, like make it happen for yourself. You got to go out there and work hard every day, do what it takes to be that player. It is a grind and you really gotta push yourself through it. But in the end, everything you're doing for yourself is going to be worth it once you reach your goal and get to play at that high level.
Well, before we end this interview, Katie, do you have any shout outs you want to give to your teammates, family members, or friends, and who should we have on the podcast next?
Yeah, I just want to shout out everyone that I've met along the way and pushed me to be the player I am and the person I am. I think the relationships made along the way are ones that I'll have forever. especially coming through Loyola. Like I've truly made my best friends and it's an awesome experience. And just like the coaching staff being able to provide that environment for us is something I'll never be able to forget and I'm forever grateful for. So yeah, just shout out to Loyola and everything the community has brought me. And then also shout out to Athletes Unlimited. It's been a great experience so far, and I think they do a great job growing the game. Who else you should have on the podcast? I think honestly, anyone who's here at Athletes Unlimited, will give great insight. Or I think a really cool person to have on would be Georgia Latch. She played on my Loyola team and she's from Australia. So she just has a lot of great experience with Team Australia, playing in the World Games, playing in sixes, World Cup, all that. And she stepped on the stepped on the field, started her freshman year at Loyola. Um, so yeah, she's just such an accomplished player and probably has great, great things to add.
Well, definitely reach out and see what happens. But I just want to say thank you so much, Katie, for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate your time. I think you're a great player and an even better person. And I just want to let you know that. And I can't wait to see the that big things you do in lacrosse in the near future with AU. I know it's going to be big things. And but I appreciate you coming on, and I really enjoyed our conversation today.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed everything too.